Good morning. It is Monday, May the 18th, 2020, and the Kerr County Commissioners Court is now in session for a special Commissioners Court meeting. I want to remind everybody to, if you would, turn your phones to vibrate. I'm not asking you to turn them off, but turn them to vibrate. This phone here is the number that's on the agenda to call in. That number is 830-792-6161. And this phone's ringer is on, and it will be up here. If you call in, we'll be able to take your call this way. With that, this is the opportunity for public input. Is there anyone here that has any public input for the court? Then we'll move on to commissioners' comments. And I want to emphasize that when in open court here, we are socially distanced. If you can see the courtroom here, you'll see people are spaced appropriately about 6 feet apart. We have Commissioners Harris and Ballou down here at the tables in front. It's their turn at the small tables. And Commissioners Moser and Letts up here so that we can remain safe distances apart. So with that, let's start with Commissioner for Precinct 1, Commissioner Ballou. Anything to report?
I did not measure the rain, but we got rain, so I'm not worried about the burn ban, and that was what a lot of the volunteer fire department guys have been asking about, so we're in good shape there. And that's all I have to say.
Okay.
Inch and a half in precinct 2. That's all I got.
Very good.
About the same.
Good.
Okay. At 1.4 at my house, and a little bit everywhere. So that was a good helping. We needed it. So, and I think we got a chance towards the weekend again. So we'll keep our fingers crossed.
All good. Okay, let's go on to agenda item 1.1. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the update, facility use, and other matters related to COVID-19. Our emergency management coordinator, Dub Thomas.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. How are y'all today?
Good. You all right?
I'm making it. Slowly but surely. Today's report, I'm not going to go through the entire report you have in front of you. A lot of it is the redundant stuff that I talk about every week. What I am going to give you is what has happened within the last week. Our EOC activation level, Kerr County, City of Kerrville, City of Ingram Emergency Operations Center is still activated. We're still operating at an increased readiness level. Annex H, Health and Medical, is still activated as well. The EOC is operating at full staff, but we are still working remotely, and the call center continues to be open for citizens needing information. The current situation, Kerr County received 1 positive COVID-19 result last week. That brought us up to 10 positive tests total for the entire period so far. The transmission has been classified as travel related out of Kerr County within the state of Texas, but outside of Kerr County. And the test was also conducted out of county, meaning it was not done at Peterson and it was not done at one of our mobile testing sites. DSHS was not able to tell me at the time where that test was conducted, but it was out of county. Mobile testing, this is something that I wanted to touch on specifically this morning. The mobile testing that was being done at Peterson Regional, Peterson was conducting the testing at the Youth Event Center. We've had 3 testing sites at the Ag Barn or Youth Event Center with the Texas Military Forces. Texas National Guard has been out there. May 2nd, 2020, we ran 107 tests. May 8th, 116 tests, and our latest one was May 14th. This past Thursday, we ran 71 tests. Total has been 295 tests have been conducted by the Texas Military Forces. In the May 8th testing, they did not give me a breakdown for the May 2nd, but I did get a breakdown for the May 8th testing, and that kind of gives you an idea of where the people that are coming to our testing, what they're calling their county of residence. So you had Bandera, had 2, 3 from Bayer, 2 from El Paso, 10 from Gillespie, 2 Kendall, 93 folks from Kerr County, 1 Kerrville. I don't know why Kerrville's on there twice. 1 Parker, and then another one, blank. They left it blank whenever they fill that information out. So we had 116 tests run that particular time, and all of those tests came back negative.
Dub, out of the 300 Do you know how many, one group you didn't know the results of, how many came back positive out of the 300 that were tested?
2 that I'm aware of.
None?
2.
Two. And one other question, have all the cases in Kerr County been travel related?
No, some have been classified as either undetermined or community spread.
Okay, how many community spread do you know?
I want to say it's probably 2 that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay,
Within the same household?
No.
and how many are active today?
Active, we have 3.
3 today?
Correct.
Okay, good, thank
I
you.
expect that number to drop sometime between today and tomorrow because that 2-week period that they were tested and came back positive, their quarantine period should be up and they should have pretty much recovered by now.
Okay, thank you.
I should get that later on this week.
Doug, real quick, how many tests were conducted in total prior to the governor starting to reopen Kerr County? And then how many tests were done after the governor announced the reopening? Because they say the cases have gone up so much, but I think what we'll see is in Kerr County, the number of tests done prior to reopening was about half the number of tests that have been done since the reopening.
It was right at 500 tests prior to opening.
Prior, from the ag barn to that? Didn't think we had that.
No, we had 464 from Peterson Regional, and that included the outreach clinic.
Outreach.
Yes, sir.
Looks close like that.
Total tests conducted in Kerr County up to this point: Peterson Regional Medical Center 743, Texas Military Forces 295. We've had COVID positive tests 10 total. Out of all those tests run, there's your infection rate. It's less than 1%, way less than 1% for this county. On May the 15th, Governor Abbott and the Texas Division of Emergency Management announced local fire departments in Texas are going to be partnering with local public health authorities to provide testing in nursing homes throughout the state. Partnership is developed and is being implemented through an ongoing collaboration between TDM, the Texas Commission on Fire Protection, Texas Health and Human Service Commission, and the Texas Department of State Health Services. Costs associated with providing these tests are eligible for reimbursement. So at this time, the Kerrville Fire Department and Peterson Regional Medical Center have partnered up, and they're going to be conducting testing on taking samples from every nursing home here in Kerr County, every resident and every employee. And they've only got a limited amount of time to get that done as well, so they're working on that pretty hot and heavy at this time. May the 14th, Governor Abbott announced the Texas Health and Human Services Commission has received more than $3 million in federal funding to provide shelter and service to survivors of family and domestic violence during the COVID-19 pandemic. This federal funding will support 78 HHSC-funded local family violence centers that provide survivors with immediate shelter, supportive services, and access to community-based programs. These funds are available through the Corona Aid, Relief, and Economic Security, or the CARES Act, and will be administered through the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. For more information about that and the Family Violence Program, Texas residents can dial 211 and they can get some more information about that Family Violence Program.
Deb, I read someplace where the counties would, low populations would receive like equivalent of up to $55 per person. So that'd mean $2.5 million for Kerr County. That means eligible. You know, you can make a claim. It's not saying you're going to get it. So is it $2.5 million for all of Kerr County, including the city? Do you have any idea where that?
I sat in on that conference call that the governor did for the mayors and the county judges, and I believe the funds are going to be done on a per capita basis.
Yeah, that's what I just said. $55 per person per capita.
I didn't know what the dollar amount was.
Well, that's what I read.
Oh, okay.
So it was 55. So I mean $2.5 million. But I would assume that that's just for the entire county. So the city would, Kerrville and Ingram and the county would have
It'd be minus.
their requests but it will be limited to that $2.5 million.
Right,
if I
but
interpret that
I don't know what the total number is, but my understanding was that the total amount that Kerr County gets will be minus whatever the city of Kerrville gets per capita.
Doesn't make sense.
I think it was set up by local government entities, so we would only be eligible for what is outside the corporate limits of the city of Kerrville.
Okay, that was my question. All right, interesting. All right.
And Ingram, I'm not sure how they fall. I mean, I would think they would get
They're
their own.
It's separated out.
They're
Okay.
separated out too, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. May 13th, Governor Abbott and the Texas Division of Emergency Management announced that federal funding has extended, or the federal government has extended 7 community-based testing sites in Texas through June the 30th. Those are in El Paso, Dallas, Houston, and Harris County. He also announced that the Texas National Guard has activated the facilities disinfection teams to support Texas nursing homes and to help limit the spread of COVID-19. So those disinfection teams were formed in coordination with Texas Health and Human Services Commission. May 13th, Governor Abbott waived license renewal late fees that accrued between March 13th and June the 15th for occupational licenses issued by the Department of Licensing and Regulation. Basically, that applies for barbers, hair salons, electricians, cosmetologists, speech therapists, those types. Also on May the 12th, Governor Abbott issued a proclamation extending his disaster declaration for all of Texas counties in response to COVID-19. This was originally issued on March the 13th and again extended on April the 12th. The disaster declaration provides the state a number of resources to effectively serve Texans as the Lone Star State continues to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. The rest of that information is stuff we've covered in the past. If you'll go down to the numbers for the week. Again, COVID-19 continues to spread in Texas. These are figures from the DSHS website. 47,784 cases in the state of Texas, 1.4 million in the United States, and the world has had 4.71 million. Total deaths are 1,336 in the state of Texas. 88,709 in the United States, 315,000 worldwide. Total recovered, again for Texas, 25,570, 210,000 in the United States, 1.73 million people have recovered worldwide. Testing continues in the state of Texas. Total tests were 693,276. Of that, private labs had done 670,000. Public labs had done nearly 23,000. All our surrounding counties, Kendall County is 21, Medina is 50 with 2 fatalities, Llano 3, Blanco 6, Burnett 28, of course Kerr County is 10, Gillespie is 4, Bandera 6, and Kimball 1. Of the 254 counties in the state of Texas, 222 have positive cases for COVID-19. Our DSHS Region 8 numbers, we have 1,180 active cases, 1,550 have recovered, and 86 deaths. Our operational priorities continue to be the same. Public safety is our top priority. We're going to continue to provide timely and accurate information about COVID-19 and how to avoid becoming infected. Continue to work with the City of Kerrville Emergency Management, Kerrville Fire Department, EMS, as well as Peterson Regional Medical Center. PPE is still coming in. It's coming in a little bit slow. I've ordered and picked up last week. I picked up a lot of PPE that we're going to be able to use for the courthouse, for the sheriff's department, and I'm going to continue to order more as much as possible. There is a system in San Antonio. It's called the Batelli system that has the capability to clean N95 masks, where we can collect those masks and send them to San Antonio, and they will clean them. Just the N95s, those are the only ones that can be cleaned, and then they will return them to us. So once I get us registered for that system, we'll be able to order PPE, and we'll also be able to send some off to get it clean and get it back, so we won't, and turnaround's supposed to be like 3 days. So, and they can do about 80,000 a day. So hopefully we'll be able
What's the
to
cost?
participate. It's free. Publication and outreach, Peterson Regional line is still open at 896-4200 extension 1. The Kerr County EOC, Emergency Operations, has the call center in there for the city of Kerrville. That's 258-1111, and it's still operating as well. We had 34 COVID-19 calls for last week. And the website, we continue to update that as well with information that may be coming in for how to apply for some type of financial assistance for local businesses, individuals. You can also go to 211 as well and find that information there. Any questions on anything this morning? None?
We've already asked them.
Awesome.
You answered them.
Well, I just want to make sure there's not any more.
Okay, thanks, Doug.
Thank you
Doug,
all.
let me ask you a question before you.
Time's up.
So close.
Time's up,
Mark?
It was almost out of here.
Looking at Medina's counties, and they're right next to San Antonio. They're Highway 90, and also 35. Is there a correlation, like say on 90 is Uvalde? Or they're on Highway 90. They're not in this group of counties we monitored. But do you have any idea if theirs is also high?
I don't remember what Uvalde County's numbers were. The same for Val Verde County. They're right
Yeah.
along all that line right there. So,
Right. I was just wondering if there's correlation along Highway 90 or maybe even further south on 35 that,
It's all, if you look at the map, I mean, everything from I-35, the I-35 corridor east is pretty much blown up.
Okay.
But now you've only got 222 out of 254 counties, so there's 32 counties left that have no COVID-19. And
Yeah.
most of those are between here and El Paso.
sure. Okay.
Well, I've talked to Judge Schuhart in Medina County, and a lot of their problem is they had a lot of their people, residents in Medina County, work in San Antonio. So they're really
Yeah.
almost San Antonio. And two of their positives were a couple that were via bus drivers in San Antonio.
Okay.
So what happens in San Antonio bleeds over big time in Medina County.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you, Doug.
Sir,
Appreciate it.
Escape while you can.
thank you all.
Thank you, Doug.
Next item on the agenda is 1.2. We consider this every week. It's whether to terminate the disaster order that I entered back in March. So we'll consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the local state of disaster due to public health and economic emergency proclamation that I issued back on March the 24th and extended on March the 30th.
I move to vacate that order.
Okay.
Or to, I guess that's the right wording for it.
I think terminate.
Terminate. Let's run its course.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Blue. Is there a second?
A question, we looked at some of the benefits of having that in terms of budgets and financials and so forth. It was good to have. It was good to have because of the 911 services and ensuring continuity of that. And I guess with those types of things, if we eliminate it or terminate it, it doesn't say we couldn't go back and reinitiate it if things started rising again. So I guess the question is, what are the benefits of having it still in place, and what are the disadvantages?
I think the benefits are that if something happens quickly, it gives the judge the ability to react.
Right.
Without it, the judge has to call the court together.
Yeah.
Or I guess you
What's
can
an example of something that's going to happen?
Well, we have to do the 72-hour posting. One of the major advantages is we
Right.
can have a meeting within 3 hours if we needed it. And I would simply say, if you want to vacate it, you can vacate it, but I know a lot of things that are going on in this county that everybody else does not, and let me tell you, it's still a powder keg.
I
We
view
still
it
have
as,
potential liabilities out there that frighten me, keep me awake at night.
I just view it as a tool in our tool pouch that it's there if we need it.
And it doesn't accomplish anything by vacating it, because we're still under the governor's order.
We're keeping it.
But-
Which we've said every time it's come up.
But in defense of Commissioner Blue's motion, public needs to know that the governor's taken all the emergency powers away from the local officials, so I have technically some powers as long as they're not inconsistent with what the governor wants. So that's all I got. I think that's right, isn't it, Madam County Attorney?
I mean,
So as long as we're consistent with what the governor wants, we're good. And if we're not, we're not.
Well, it keeps coming up, and I just figured we might as well be
No,
dispensing.
I appreciate the discussion.
Commissioner Mosier's point is a good one, but I think that as long as your dates are provable, then whatever mitigation we'd have in some kind of, I don't know, matching funds or something, or emergency funds, you'd still qualify for them. You don't have to have an emergency order in
Well,
place.
one of them had to do with the limits on, help me here, Tanya, the limits of 3.5% versus 10%. If we're have a emergency declaration, then we're not restricted to the 3.5% limit on.
You're talking about the revenue cap?
It's
Right, revenue cap.
It goes up to 8.
Huh?
There's 8.5 of them.
But if we're on an emergency declaration, it doesn't apply. The 3.5% doesn't apply.
I think
I don't think we need it,
No.
okay?
the difficult part to sort through is we're under an emergency by the governor regardless.
Right.
And what, I think that, to me, I don't see any reason to get rid of it. I don't see a strong reason to keep it. I think one reason to keep it is a perception. I think there still is a risk, and I think the public perception may be the fact that we don't need to, that they can relax more. And I think people do need to be careful in sanitization, washing their hands.
I don't know how you could emphasize that more. In any way, one iota more than it already has been, to anything this court can do.
Well, I agree with
I
that.
keep saying people are doing as much as they'll ever do. And some people are starting to jump off that ship, as we study some of these numbers and stuff. So,
Well, let me share one other thing, and we talked about this a little bit last week. We're having a meeting this week with Judge Emerson. The OCA, the Office of Court Administration, is fulfilling the Texas Supreme Court's order to open up for in-person hearings and jury trials. And we have no idea what's going to happen once we open this courthouse back up for jury trials. We're working on a plan. Judge Emerson's in charge of that. We have a meeting scheduled, I think, tomorrow. But I can tell you that once we open the doors to that jail and we start bringing inmates, whether it's here or with the Youth Event Center, we don't know what's going to happen. And the liability exposures are astronomical. Just saying. So,
You're
it is
saying
not a
we
time
would
to
be
let our
held
guard down.
responsible?
Pardon?
You're saying the county would be held responsible for a pandemic if a prisoner got somebody sick?
They've got federal lawsuits filed right now in Colorado.
They hadn't won any.
Huh?
Hadn't won any.
They got an injunction.
I don't know how you could do that. I mean, anything's possible, I guess. When a man can be a woman because he puts on a dress, I suppose anything's possible. But I don't see that happening to us, realistically.
Well, I don't think that's realistic. And I'll tell you why. When we start taking vulnerable populations in that jail and subjecting them to potentially positive COVID-19 inmates, then yes, we'll be liable for the medical care to take care of those people. And the estimates are, I'm telling you, off the
Well,
charts.
are you talking about the jail or are you talking about courts?
I'm talking about both. When we start moving them, our jail population has been stagnant. We don't have any positive cases in the jail. And it's because we've been clearing people out and not trying to put people back in. There are a lot of arrests that are going on right now, but if we have an outbreak in that jail, when we start moving these people back and forth, it could blow up on us. I'm just saying. We are about to go through a very critical transition when we open the courthouse back up for jury trials. I'm just telling you. Cross your fingers, say your prayers. It's that serious.
I heard some of the things the sheriff said about this. There's a lot of hoops to jump through, and it is kind of scary.
We've been jumping through hoops since this started.
Oh, yeah.
And we've prepared for a tornado and we got high winds. That's where we're at right now.
I agree with you.
And if we keep going down this road, folks, we're gonna have the government telling us that if it's 55 degrees or below, you gotta wear a coat. When are they gonna stop telling us what we gotta do and where we have to be and get my temperature taken and all that kind of stuff? There has to be, at some point, you have to put your foot down and say, okay, I've had enough of it. It hasn't panned out. It's not what you said it would. You advertised a kitten and you gave me a puppy. It's not what you said it was gonna be. And it has not been. We were supposed to flatten the curve, we did that. Now they say you gotta have testing, now you gotta have a vaccine. It's just more hysteria. And I don't want us to be seen as playing into that. I'm not gonna play into it. I'm not gonna be a party to it. And what the sheriff does at the jail all the time is to protect those prisoners, and he has to make sure that they're healthy. He's charged by the state of Texas to do that. I don't know how he'd do any more than what he's doing now. He takes care of their dental and their mental and everything else, everything in between. So I don't know how does this pose, I know it's an inconvenience, but how is this different than anything else you have to take care of?
It's major,
In what way?
and it needs to be discussed in executive session.
All right,
And that's what we'll do next week.
all right.
Okay, so the motion fails for lack of a second. Let's move on to item 1.3. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding Kerr County Memorial Day ceremonies.
Did you get Marty? While Marty's coming in, let me just set the scene for this. Typically, when Veteran Service Officer prepares with the advisory committee Memorial Day services, it's usually done over about a 2-month period to get the speakers, get the organization, get the commitments from people, to get the wreaths together. So what Marty's going to show you is a truncated view of that, something that she and Jenna put together with the advisory committee last week to see what we could do next Monday in truncated session. Yeah, thanks.
Ms. Mistretta.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, we are trying to keep all the most important elements of Memorial Day there, but also keep safety in mind. So, we'll still have chairs for folks. It's going to be probably down to 25 chairs, but 6 feet apart, spaced out. We're still contemplating if we're still going to do wreaths because we don't want folks.
You're going to do it out there?
Yes, sir. Still going to be at the memorial. Wreaths, we're kind of trying to figure that out because we don't want folks clustered together, but also we don't want to leave the wreaths out to be damaged in the wind. We're just going to basically kind of get right to the point. It's going to be the announcements, posting the colors, recorded national anthem, possible invocation, speaker, reading of the names, and then do our taps. So consolidated, but down to maybe 30 minutes. It's kind of on the same level as Gillespie counties. They're usually down to 30 minutes. So we're trying to do the same thing. So, I mean, we're still trying to do the best we can given the situation. I think it'll still be great, and also we've got with the IT department to see if we can possibly record it. So folks that would like to typically go, if they are not able to, we can record it and then they'll have it online. And that might deter some folks that really want to attend to maybe say, hey, I'll stay at home and watch it there. So I'll try to.
And Marty, so just looking here, it's a 60% chance of rain on Monday. So if it's raining and it's canceled, it's just canceled.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it will be canceled if that's the case.
Good.
Yeah, because the county's still closed down. I think, yeah, that's all the high points for that. Did y'all have any questions or any?
Only one question. If you talk to maintenance, if there's more than 25 people, will you bring out chairs or they're just gonna stand or what? Okay.
Yeah,
What time? 12 o'clock?
Say again?
What time?
Oh, 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
Since it's getting so hot, we just want to kind of knock it out. I'm not doing one at the Veterans Cemetery. Everybody else is kind of shut down, so we kind of took that time slot. That way it's a little cooler for everybody.
And so Kerr County's making, proposing to do it. Gillespie County's not going to do it,
Correct.
correct? So
Good.
do we need to have motion for this to do it. I think it's just Marty and the VSO's call to do it, along with just what we do. Okay, good.
We just have that courthouse use form that would need to be approved. So I don't know if you're gonna do that by vote or not.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the Memorial Day ceremonies at the courthouse for May the 25th, beginning at 10 o'clock, 2020.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Baloo to approve the Memorial Day ceremony here at the courthouse on May the 25th at 10 a.m. Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marty and Jenna. And Brian. Brian.
Item 1.4, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to surplus and/or dispose of office equipment from the district clerk's office inventory. Ms. Lance.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. I've provided a list at the back of the agenda, and these are some items that I need to surplus or dispose of. There's several items on the list that are broken, and maintenance has already taken a lot of this inventory out to their area.
I move we approve the surplus list from the district clerk's office.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Harris to approve the surplus list from the district clerk's office. Any further discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lands. Item 1.5, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve the county judge on behalf of Kerr County as the lead county of the 5-county regional public defender office consisting of Bandera County, Gillespie County, Kendall County, Kerr County, and Medina County to file for an improvement grant from the Texas Indigent Defense Commission for fiscal year 2020-2021.
Is there any news about
News?
it? Yeah, I mean, we've heard all the reasons why we need it. Is there anything else that? we
I've
should
talked,
know?
well, the developments on it have been that I have talked with Jim Allison, the attorney in Austin, on the pros and cons, whether we do a nonprofit arrangement with the Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid. And I've also visited with the TRLA representative on this thing. Visited with the other judges about it. All 4 of the other judges do not want to do the legal aid. They would rather go and do this ourselves with TIDC.
Is that for control or more, or what?
It's mainly because TRLA does 90% is civil work, which can be very controversial and very political, that they don't want to be associated with. Their intent, they stated, they have a very good program, an excellent program, but their intent is to try to reopen their civil office here in Kerr County with this. They would do the PDO and reopen the civil office, and we're trying to stick to just pretty much criminal defense, public defender office. So that was kind of that's been the latest development. We're ready to, we're just about ready to file the grant. That's why it's on the agenda today for the resolution to do that. The one thing that we're looking at that they're asking us for to put in the grant is our build-out cost. And at this point, we've looked at it. There's a couple potential locations that we've looked at. I was going to try to run this probably by the CIP this week. We have a meeting Wednesday afternoon to take a look at it. There's a building a couple of blocks down the street here on Earl Garrett that it's the old Sunday school building that we might be able to use. I've talked
It's a shared cost with everybody. Right?
Yes, yeah, and we're one of the things we're talking about. We're going to have to put together another committee, an operations committee, of how we're going to try to run this office. But the discussions thus far have been to allocate the expenses between the counties on the basis of caseload. And Kerr County has by far the heaviest caseload, mainly because we have 2 district courts and a county court at law. But we have a heavy caseload, and so we've allocated on the basis of caseload. And we would we have to come up with an agreement, but we'd want to revisit that every 3 years is what we've been talking about. The deal that we're in on the 198th and the 216th with Gillespie and Bandera County has been on the basis of population, not caseload. And it's been reviewed after every census every 10 years. That hasn't worked out too well for us. And Judge Strayer and Judge Evans would concede that if they were here. They acknowledge that we're paying more than our share in terms of caseload right now with both of those counties. And so we need to put together an operational agreement as to how we're going to do that. All we're doing right now is just getting in line for the grant. And the grant cycle is, I think they're going to meet in June, and they will be awarding grants, I think, by the end of the summer, probably by August. We look pretty promising at this point. 5-county regional public defender's office is held in very high regard at the state level at this point. This is something they're looking to do, to regionalize the state's participation in defending indigents.
I think in favor of submitting the application, but I also think, and I talked to the judge about this, that I really am in favor of a local committee to help me better understand, and probably the whole court better understand how it's all going to work a little bit better, and that has the budget implications that concerns me.
Right.
And and he and I talked a little bit about it. I think the county attorney, someone from the DA's office, judge, a member of the court, needs to really get into how it works for Kerr County, and then another step's going to be down the road is how it works with other counties. But I think that, I'm in favor of this step, and then I don't know if we can do it on this agenda item. But
I think the process that Commissioner Letts is describing is accurate. That as a microcosm for how we're going to handle it for Kerr County is kind of where we start. Once we've decided how we're going to handle it, then we need to figure out how we're going to interface and handle this with the other 4 counties. So we would go from an inner circle to an outer circle that begins to fold in representatives from the other counties, and eventually negotiate an interlocal agreement that we would all enter into to handle this.
So this is just submitting an application, it's not a commitment.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
If we were approved, still not a commitment.
even if they offer us the grant,
Right.
we don't have to accept it. So
Right.
we have plenty of time to
I just want to
reconsider.
make sure that was clear.
Yes.
Sure.
Good.
Well, I move for approval.
Second.
A motion's been made by Commissioner Ballou, seconded by Commissioner Harris to approve filing for the improvement grant with the TIDC. Is there any other discussion?
Judge, will you put it on the next agenda to appoint a committee?
Sure.
So we can, because the time's going to be of the essence on this, because it's we're going to August, so basically we have 2 months to get our ducks in a row
Okay.
And do budget.
and do budget.
And everybody should know this is mandated that we do
Yes.
something.
Yeah. This
We're
is
not just spending money.
Well, we have to provide indigent defense. We can
That's
continue
what I
what we're doing, or we can try to do a better system, hopefully,
Right.
or
Well-
a different system.
And so that the public fully understands, this is the state actually contributing significant funds for us to pay for indigent defense that they're not doing now. This first year grant is an 80% matching grant, so the 5 counties would contribute 20%, and the state's paying 80% of it. And it's going to represent, for at least the first few years, a substantial savings to
Did
Kerr
we
County.
estimate that like about 300,000 or something, as I recall?
I think it's about 340 is what they
Yeah,
had
okay.
estimated, but again, we haven't
Right.
tweaked the numbers.
Sure.
Right.
But it's
Those
gonna be a
numbers were
significant
little
savings.
high.
They were high.
Okay.
Okay, those in favor, raise your hand. 5-0 unanimous. Next item on the agenda is 1.6, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to form a committee to review our current longevity policy and make recommendations to the Commissioners Court.
This is something that I put on the agenda because I think we've talked about it off and on for several years. I see problems with the longevity policy, a number of them. Everything from it is gradually getting very expensive, having automatic increases of 2.5%, and they start compounding. So I think it needs to be looked at. I think the things to look at in my mind are, do we limit the salaries that are subject to the thing? If you get up to some of our higher paid people, 2.5% increase is a pretty big increase, and you add that on top of a COLA that we do a lot of years, and it's compounds year to year. Some of these salaries are getting pretty high.
Figuring out a cap.
Possibly.
Yeah.
To me, whether 3 years is the right period, whether we do 1 year is another thing. And the other area is the current system is implemented on anniversary dates, and that has become extremely complicated and cumbersome and caused us a lot of problems. I'd like to look at something like maybe doing it on the October 1 after the third year. I mean, doing it so everyone gets it at the same
With the
time.
budget.
Yeah, with the budget, part of the budget process, working it rather than automatic. Or it's, anyway, there's some of the things I think need to be looked at. And to me, we're at the right time of the year to do it. And I think we ought to do it committee. I think the auditor should be on it. I think HR director should be on it. I think probably the sheriff, because of the size of his department, and he has a lot of impact on this, or sheriff representative. Maybe Road and Bridge is another big department, someone else in the court. Anyway, I just think we just need to look at it, so we have this, a recommendation to the court by the time we start our June meetings.
So
You
you
want
have
to
a-
put that as part of the motion, those department heads, or?
You know, I think you need to, how many people you have on it, yeah, I mean, it's gotta be workable. I don't,
Right.
you know, I'd say 5 or so, and then it's gonna come back to the court for discussion, and people can look at it and have input, but you gotta have something for everyone to throw darts at.
So I'm asking that question again, does that include the departments in
Yes.
the motion? Those
We've got
5?
auditor, HR, sheriff, and road and bridge.
Maybe treasurer?
Pardon?
Treasurer, and just like,
I think you gotta keep it small. It's gonna come back.
Yeah, it's going to come
Discuss
back.
it. It's
but I
just a
mean-
committee to come back with a findings or recommendation.
Right.
Right.
And then someone from the court, and it can be whoever makes no difference to me.
I think you'd be the prime one.
I figure.
Yeah.
That's fine. So I'll make a motion for the committee to be formed, review our longevity policy with the names as listed by the judge.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Baloo, to appoint a committee consisting of Commissioner Letts, the auditor, HR, sheriff, and road and bridge. Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous.
Good. Good suggestion.
Okay, 1.7, update regarding operating hours of county departments.
We have got some updates, we got some feedback in the form of emails from a lot of our departments, and we are steadily moving towards normal a little bit. And I'll just kind of brush over them. I know our Lisa Walters, our PR person, will be putting out a press release. Before I start going over this, I'm not going to read it fully, but I would recommend anybody coming to any of our departments, call first, make sure. Some of them require that you call, make an appointment, others don't, but just to be sure, I'd give them a call. We'll start with Animal Services. They're not taking surrenders yet, but otherwise they're up to normal business. Our constables are going full scale, just like they always have. Our county attorney, their office is open. And any of y'all here, if I say something wrong, please correct me. County clerk, they're open from 8 to 5 by appointment only. You can visit their website for any help you might need. County Court of Law, it's open 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. The DA's office, 198 is 8 to 5 Monday through Friday by appointment. 216, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. They encourage emails or phone calls first. District clerk's open to the public 8 to 4. Our district court and district judges Monday through Friday 8 to 5. Engineering's still going full force 7 to 4. Extension office, someone's there from 8 to 5 every day. They're still kind of rotating out staff. The youth event centers 8 to 10 to the public Monday through Friday, and then appointments. Human resources is 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. JP2 open to public 8:30 to 11:30 every day. And then phone, we encourage people calling. JB3 is Monday through Thursday, 7:30 to 5, and Friday 8 a.m. to 3, with lunch 12 to 1. JB4 is open Monday through Friday 8 to 12, and then 1 to 4:30. Doors are locked, but give them a call. Set an appointment. Juvenile probation is open 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. OSSF is open during normal business hours. And Treasurer's Office Monday through Friday 8 to 5, closed 1 to 2. And Victims' Rights is open Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. So everything's getting closer and closer to normal. A few offices we haven't heard from, we probably will this week. So, but I encourage everybody to call first. Make sure.
So that all goes under the banner, all departments remained open with just some restrictions in access.
Exactly.
Right. Good report. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. You'll notice we have a timed item at 11 o'clock. Judge Emerson is going to come present to us on this Office of Court Administration. We'll skip over 1.8 and move on down to the approval agenda. 2.1, pay the bills.
Good morning.
Ms.
Today,
Shelton.
the invoices for Kerr County, $203,553.17. The airport, $790.58. County clerk fees are $322.08. The 198th District Attorney Forfeiture Fund is $346.03. And then the Texas Water Development Board, we have $136,731.68.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Blue, seconded by Commissioner Harris to approve the bills as presented. Any further discussion?
Question on the records archival, large bill for like 61,000 some. It just seems like, is that?
That was a contract, y'all had approved it earlier this year, and it was for the archival of some of the old records, I believe.
And we just got billed, it says all at once. It just seemed like a large amount for that. Okay.
Is it operational? Is it operational?
You talking about the archived records?
Yep.
Yes. They look great.
Good.
I don't want to pay for anything until we got them all back.
Okay.
You need to vote?
Yeah. Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0, pay the bills. Budget amendments, 2.2.
Yes, we have 3 today. The first one is reallocating property insurance for our property insurance renewal package. And number 2 and 3 are certifying new revenue for insurance proceeds for road and bridge and juvenile probation.
Move for approval.
Approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Baloo to approve the budget amendments as presented. Any further discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Late bills.
We have one late bill, $30,857, and this is for an easement.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Baloo to approve the late bill for the easement.
Very important easement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Final one.
Any further discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Auditor report.
There are not any.
Thank you. Monthly reports, 2.5.
I don't have it.
Okay. Court orders, 2.6.
Court orders from our May 11th meeting is 38075 to 38086. They all look perfect. So I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's made by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Harris to approve the court orders as presented. Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Let's move on to the information agenda, status reports from department heads. Jane.
Morning, gentlemen. I do have some good news as far as the fire alarms. He's got his permit, it's been approved. He is set up and scheduled for Tuesday of next week to do the installation day or so to do the job. He just sent me a text message before I walked in here, so that's some good news. Also, we had mentioned, or Commissioner List had mentioned something about maybe getting some contractors to clean at night. I did speak with the night crew that comes in here. What they do is, like I said, they clean the tax office and the clerk's office. And if we discussed maybe doing all 3 floors, maybe we should do this in, anyhow, should we do this where they clean a floor each night, or try to do all 3 floors in one night? Because basically there's only 2 or 3 that come in that do that. So if we're going to do a new contract, we need to maybe discuss what it would take to do the job and have a contract presented.
This is additional cleaning for virus, is that what it is?
Yes, sir, for night cleaning. Commissioner Lett had brought something up like this, maybe to discuss or check into, for the cleanup, sterilizing the building and whatnot.
I just think that, all countertops really need to be disinfected. And just doing those 2 offices there, I think that's district clerk. The courts start opening up.
It's going to be required for the courts.
Right. So you have it up there. So, I think it is a new contract, and I think it should be a new contract because then we keep track of it, of the cost of it. So I think that, really, if you could get a estimate, and one, I guess also, are these people qualified to do it, and what are they going to use? Because I know Judge and I talked a little bit about some of the stuff that the KPD, not the fire department uses for EMS and all that stuff, which is, I forgot the name of it, it comes in gallons.
Sheriff has it. I forget the name of it too. But
I do too. We have quite a bit. It's very expensive.
I know what it costs.
Yeah, it's expensive.
I remember that.
But, I think that we need to keep the courthouse as clean as possible. And from a disinfectant standpoint, and I just think we need to address it before we start getting more and more people in here. And doorknobs and countertops and all that need to be cleaned daily.
Well, let's see, put it in perspective. Viruses supposedly live on the surface like that for a few hours. Okay? So, and it's in very, very small percentage of the people in Kerr County have the virus. So are we overkilling it?
Well, originally, didn't they offer to do this floor for free?
That's
Did
another.
we have-
That's
No,
another.
that was the
That's something else.
So what are we trying to accomplish? If it only lives for a few hours, you do it at night, and very few people have the virus in Kerr County. As a matter of fact, how many cases do we have? 3 active that we know of. So are we overreacting? My question.
Possibly. I'm just addressing
Sure.
maybe some concerns.
I don't know. If you were bringing the cost. I'm not asking you to.
Come on,
It's
Shane.
just the messenger.
I'm just asking the question.
One of the reasons why I brought this up is, if we're going to do a contract, they need to know how to bid it, what's
Right.
expected of them. Do we want all 3 floors done at one night, or do we want to do 1 floor every night?
But you're into operations. I'm one step above it. I'm saying,
Right.
why are we doing it?
Right.
Not how.
Well, it was brought up
I understand. I'm asking the court. Okay. Why are we doing it?
What are the judge? You just mentioned the courts are going to require. What are the courts going to require? Do you know yet?
Well, we're going to see what, there's an operations plan that Judge Emerson is going to talk to us about at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
One of the debates that we've had, all of the judges submitted their proposed operation plan to him, and then he's putting together one that we'll adopt for the courthouse. But one of the debates that we've had is whether or not we have to clean the courtroom between hearings, or we just sanitize the courtroom between hearings. A huge difference. And we'd have to have a maintenance representative available at every court all day long,
Yeah.
every day.
I think we're overreacting.
I'm just saying, that's
Yeah.
that's
I
the
like
debate.
your reaction.
Huh?
I like your reaction. We'll see what he has.
Well, let's consider it this way. It's not a thing that's been mandated. This particular thing's not even been suggested. So I agree with Commissioner Mosier. I don't think we should go that direction at this point. CDC guidelines don't even talk about that, so. it might be a little much for us here, considering our circumstances.
At this point in time.
It's probably more important during the day to do it on the countertops.
And I see our
Yeah, exactly.
our people cleaning all day long, it seems like.
Yeah, it goes back to that thing about this, that there's a saturation of awareness.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody, one iota will change from anything happening in this court about people's awareness and what they're doing right now.
Well, I guess the question would be, and frankly, I didn't think about the length of life of the virus,
Right.
and it's a good point. But is it, maintenance should provide at each office that has countertops, you know, and they do some cleaning, but they can't be cleaning countertops all the time.
Right.
You know, at our own business, my own business, we're pretty careful with that. We have people coming in from the
Right.
public all the time, it's like the courthouse is, and we sanitize the pens and the countertop after every customer. Is it the job of maintenance or just which really isn't feasible? It's just additional work that we ask each department to do, and we should provide the proper chemicals.
I like the statement that one of the doctors in New York City made several weeks ago. He said, "I'm not going to get the virus." He said, "because I'm not going to touch my face." And he said, "Therefore, I'm going to assume everything I touch has a virus on it. And when I get through and when I go home, I really sanitize and make sure it doesn't get in my house." And he said, "But I'm not getting it." So just doing it that simple. So, but
It's
I think-
hygiene. You know, we have pretty good hygiene overall.
Right. I think
Obviously.
Okay. All right.
And just one other thing, talking to one of my salesmen, we can't purchase a fogger if we ever needed to sterilize or to kill viruses in the courtroom. It's kind of expensive to use the product, but if we were having to look at the cost of hiring somebody to do that, we wouldn't have to. We could actually do it ourselves. So I just wanted to put that out there also. That this product says it will kill the virus within like 30 seconds. So that's something.
Is that a per gallon price, Jim?
They have, for 2.5 gallons, it's $175, and for 12 quarts, it's $220. And the fogger itself is $200.
How much is the fogger?
200.
200?
Mm-hmm. And it can probably do a 60 by 60 square area in an hour. Like I said, it's kind of slow, but it's something we could do ourselves if it became necessary.
So that'd be something, when would you do it? I would presume you don't want to breathe this stuff.
Well,
Sure
I
you do.
was
You
asking
won't
about,
get
because I asked that question also. I mean, what kind of protective gear do we need to have? And he said, well, safety glasses and your mask, because it has a zero health, zero flammability, and zero reactivity, non-acidic. So it's pretty safe to use, and after you're done, 10 minutes later, you can walk in there and you can open your office back up after 10 minutes. So and it leaves no residual smell behind, like like a bleach smell. It's zero, no scent. It's got a very neutral smell.
See, what I'm concerned, if we're on the down slope of this thing, okay, and we haven't done any of that kind of stuff before, and if we start it, we'll never stop it.
Right. Well, but the only purpose is to bring this to
I
y'all's
said if we
attention.
start it, we'll never stop it.
That'll work.
All right.
You've done your job.
Okay.
That's
right.
All right.
Yep. Good
All right.
enough.
That's all I have to do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other department heads have status reports? Elected officials, status reports. Liaison commissioner status reports. Okay, then it is 10 o'clock and we're going to adjourn for an hour. We'll resume back at 11 o'clock with a report from Judge Emerson.
Judge, there's some executive session under 4.2.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, the court will go into executive session. It's 10 o'clock. Okay, let's come back to order. At 11 o'clock, we have a timed item on the agenda. Update regarding the Office of Court Administration requirements for the courts. Judge Emerson.
my understanding the court had some questions on our proposed operating plan. Judge Kelly, I believe you received it Friday.
Yes.
I'd be happy to answer questions.
Well, we haven't seen the
We haven't
plan.
We haven't
seen
seen it, so we were hoping you'd tell us what's in it.
It's a secret. Kind of like the governor's office. You know. The court plan, contrary to the information that was distributed last week, the court plan only applies to the courtrooms, not to the whole building. So all the screening procedures will occur at the time of court. We've talked to courthouse security, been talking to Rusty quite a bit. We have our staff that will work in conjunction with security staff to screen everybody as they come into the courtroom. There are safety procedures that are implemented inside the courtrooms with face masks, hygiene materials, tissues, plexiglass screens, and social distancing is enforced. We've gone through every courtroom in the county and established maximum occupancies for the galleries in the courtrooms. But the social distancing is enforced even up to attorney-client. When they're at counsel table, pursuant to OCA orders, they cannot get any closer than 6 feet to their clients, which is going to cause some hiccups, because obviously if they need to have a private conversation, we're going to have to recess, allow them to step out of the courtroom.
So this is just following OCA.
Correct.
Here. So if OCA were to come back and say, forget it, we don't need to do any of this social distancing and all that kind of stuff, you would then adhere to that
Correct.
guideline?
Yeah,
Okay.
and these operating orders at the end, very end, say that until further orders of the court are OCA orders.
Okay.
So,
What, obviously you're gonna be upstairs in those two courtrooms.
right.
What courtrooms are you gonna use?
I'm going to use Zoom because they haven't discontinued Zoom, as I understand it.
Correct, it's encouraged.
My dockets are the probate docket, the juvenile docket, and the mental health docket. And it works wonderfully for mental health. We haven't had any juvenile detention hearings because we have no place to detain them. But we'll start those back up. And on the probate, I really don't want to bring all those older people into the courthouse. And we got together with members of the probate bar. We came up with our own Zoom protocol that we follow, and it works very well. So if I use a courtroom, it'll be the courtroom downstairs probably, the ones that JP's used.
And then, Judge Harris will use her courtroom.
Correct.
If needed.
And I've talked to Judge Harris, and I've talked to Judge Patillo, and Judge Kelly, and we've made arrangements for our, for lack of better words, the cattle call docket, which is the pretrial arraignment docket for out of custody, to actually use the youth exhibit center. That way we can go in there, set the chairs all socially distanced, and we can screen everybody as they come in.
And I have talked with the sheriff. It will require additional security to do it out there. We figured, what about, we're talking about 3 deputies to do it?
Yeah, I think we should get into it, but yes, what we're talking about for out at the Ag Barn alone is they're talking about 4 court days for county court of law. This is per month, and 2 court days, 1 for each district court. So that's 6 court days out at Ag Barn. 6 court days out there, and being able to check the temperature of everybody coming in, doing the screening questions of everybody coming in, assuring to the social distancing and seating of everybody's coming in is going to take at least 3 officers. And running a metal detector at the same time that we'll have to set up out there. Okay?
Just boom, boom, one after the other.
Try,
6 feet apart.
But you have to keep them apart, and that's going to put them out in the parking lot, or we're going to have to arrange something where we try and get it around. But the only way I can look at it is 3 officers to be able to fulfill that. We can attempt to do some of that with regular scheduling that I have now, but the problem is, you know, as you well know, here at the courthouse, I'm down too. So really the only way that I can do it and guarantee it, trying to come up with a cost value on it, is doing overtime for officers. Overtime for officers, getting them to volunteer on their off-duty time is what it amounts to. Overtime for patrol deputies, counting roll-ups and all the rest of that has to go in with it, it's probably going to be close to $50 an hour. 6 days, and then we're going to have to start early, which is about 10-hour days, because you're going to have that line stacking up to try and get them through the process. 6 day, 10-hour days is 180 hours a month, so you're talking over $9,000 a month to be able to do this at the Ag Bar.
That's one day a month.
No,
No,
that's
six.
6 days a month total for the month is going to run you close to between $9,000 and $10,000 for overtime for deputies. Okay.
That's the bad news. The good news is that's pretty clearly a reimbursable expense for the COVID-19 crisis.
Right.
So we should get
Within
reimbursed.
the limits of the money that'll be available,
Yes.
correct?
Now, I think we need to discuss some of this other as part of it, because we still have in custody, and Rex and I had talked, the judge and I had talked, and we're going to try and see if we can get the in custody ones done out at the JP2 courtroom, okay? Because our medical provider at the jail has come up with their procedures for any inmate leaving that jail because of the issues and the liability that we have. This is the medical provider we're with, so if we don't follow their guidelines, it could and possibly could open us up to some liability. Their guidelines are restrict transports to 1 inmate per vehicle to comply with social distancing measure as much as possible. Regarding the inmate, take the temperature and repeat screening questions prior to transport. Don a mask to be worn at all times during movement and court proceedings, etc. This is even at hospital visit, doctor visits we have going on now. Temperature upon return. Upon return, house as a 14-day separation cell quarantine immediately upon return. Anybody going to court or going anywhere else gets put in separation for a 14-day quarantine. Suggestive alternative to separation cell if availability is limited or depleted. All inmates attending court on the same day or within the same week can be housed together in specified separation housing unit. 14-day quarantine begins on the day the last inmate returning from court is placed in that separation unit. This approach is known as medical cohorting. The transporting officer. Put on mask and gloves for duration of transport, court proceedings, etc. Temperature upon return. Decontaminate, sanitize transport vehicle, wash hands, keeps hand sanitizer available on person. Courthouse staff or the staff at the facility take temperature and complete coronavirus screening questions upon arrival to courthouse. Don mask at all times for duration of proceedings. Accommodate for and adhere to social distance measure of minimum of 6 feet between individuals at all times. As of this morning, the separation cells I have available is 9. That's it.
Say 9.
9. Okay? Since April the 1st to present, city of Kerrville alone has arrested 111 people. Okay? Sheriff's office has arrested 64. That's just since April 1. There's a federal lawsuit been filed against the Colorado, and for those of you wishing to see the temporary injunction, it's right here, the entire thing, okay? In which the federal courts have designated certain inmates with a certain type of illnesses or pre-existing conditions as being the vulnerable group, and that's what the federal court has done, okay? In that vulnerable group, as of this morning, I've got 14 inmates that should be housed separately right now.
But they can be housed together, right?
But it will totally do away with any of your classification capabilities that you're required to do by the state. Because some of them are maximum security, some of them are minimum security. So you can't put them together, and now you've added another link into there, being the vulnerable group. We currently have over 1,000 masks available for inmates. I can put them all in the inmates, okay? And what Doug was relating to here, that we've been kind of trying to get ready for all this, N95 mask on hand for our jurisdiction and for, like Ingram, because Doug does help with the emergency management there, but that I have on hand at the sheriff's office. I have 6,600 N95 masks. I have 5,056 NK95 masks, and I've got over 300 paper masks. I have 2 Clorox tubs, which are great big 700-piece tubs of wipes I have 12 containers of residential Clorox wipes that are the bigger, about 75 wipes. Of the 67.6 ounce bottles of Perel, I have 25 bottles. 12 ounce bottles of hand sanitizer, I've got 36 bottles. I've got 2 extra handheld thermometers. We got 6 in use at the facility now. And I've got about 400 or 500 pair of gloves right now. But when we open this up, trying to provide everybody with one coming in, and I was glad to hear this morning, because I hadn't seen the deal, that it's only going to pertain to the courtrooms and not the whole courthouse. But the courtrooms would pertain to everybody upstairs, including outside the 2 courtrooms in the common area, would it?
Correct, and but the notices request people to bring their own masks.
Right.
And only if they don't show up with one will we have to provide them.
We'll provide it then, but then it says if they have a cloth one, if they're for more than an hour, it should be a surgical type mask and not the cloth. That's what
That's not
OCA guidelines.
That's not in the plan.
Good, because I haven't seen. What I'm talking about is some of this stuff that we're being, I think everybody understands my opinion about this. It doesn't differ from Harvey's very much. But
You shouldn't say that publicly.
one of the other things, though, I did have our medical provider, because they have lost doctors, they have lost nurses, okay? They have lost inmates. And so I asked them, or they were asked by another jail actually, is there any kind of going cost that they've seen if it gets into a facility? The low end of the average of hospitalization of an inmate that gets it, one of the vulnerable ones, because they would have to be on the ventilator, they're the ones that normally would be. The low end is $100,000, the high end is $250,000 per inmate for if you end up with it in your facility. So what they're looking at, some of their facilities may have, look at the number of inmates in Bexar County Jail, and the high risk ones, if they end up if you had 100 inmates, you're talking about anywhere from $10 million to $25 million. Our medical contract only covers the cost of the inmates inside our facility. It does not cover any hospital cost or any off-site cost. And you don't get insurance for inmates. That's my concern. If we have one inmate that gets it, that can't go on the indigent program, it could cost this county millions of dollars.
Rusty, what is if Kerr County has a resident in the Bexar County Jail, are we not responsible for those medical costs if that person gets infected in the Bexar County Jail?
Well, that's why we're not picking up inmates from Bexar County right now.
No, but I'm saying it's a county, it's a Kerr County resident, though.
I have some in Montgomery, I have some I think under the indigency, there may be part of that. The jail's not. My office is not.
The crime follows wherever they go.
Under the county indigent program, you're talking a whole different deal that's under her. Under the indigent health program, it's the county of residence, okay, that I believe it goes back to. So yeah, if there's an inmate in the Bexar County Jail that is Bexar County's inmate, but he's an indigent inmate, okay, then Kerr County's going to pay the cost of that under the county's indigent program. Okay, that's what you're looking at on this stuff. And there's so much that the county has to be out of pocket, and then the state start picking up some of the indigent costs after that. Now, part of the grant that came out through ACOG covering some of this does list in there that it can help cover the cost of inmates that do get it. Okay, but the problem you have in a jail is it's a ventilation system. We're even worse than a nursing home, to be honest. We don't have windows or anything else. If we get it in that facility, it's going to do what it's done in Bexar County and Houston and those. It's going to spread like wildfire. So we have to be extra cautious, and that's what we're trying to do. Nobody walks into my office, admin part, jail part, or whatever, without having their temperature taken. Okay.
What is the temperature that? I mean, I know everyone's taking temperature, but is that actual? Because you hear a lot of reports of people that don't show any signs.
Right.
Yeah, is it reliable?
That's a good question. But all I can do is try and do the best we can through CDC guidelines and then say our prayers at night.
Rusty, there's some ventilation, air conditioning system where you can purify the air that's being circulated. I don't know how effective those are. Is that anything that you've looked at in the jail itself?
No, we have two negative pressure cells that we keep.
Yeah, but I'm talking about
the fluorescent light or whatever it is up there. I don't have it.
Right,
Okay.
some ozone system or something like that quote, purifies the air. I don't know. Again, I don't know how effective they are.
And the thing is, what we're facing, to be honest, I think most of y'all know, so far, I have had 10 employees that had to be tested. Okay? That actually got tested. And we got one positive out of that. Thank goodness that employee hadn't been around the office for quite a while due to other issues and that. But it's, that's the issue you have is, how far are we going to go with this? And we're looking at employees and we're looking at inmates. And I'm looking at the county attorney and the liability issues that we as a county have. We've got some very dedicated people, but if we just open it back up and we get it in jail, it's going to affect every one of our people. And it's going to affect every resident in this county because of the cost. And that's what I think people need to understand is, we've got a 328 bed jail, but I've got 38 separation cells. 3 of those I can't use because one's a violent cell and 2 of them are negative pressure, so we have to save those for the extremely. So that leaves me 35. Okay, and I got 26 of them with inmates right now. And then you've got the deal of just the supervision of those, because once you put them in separation, you're having to watch constantly. Not just for checking temperature, I'm talking about for suicide watch and everything else. But I think what OCA's, asking us to do is fine, and it's going to protect a lot of people, but it's not going to be cheap to this county. It's not going to be cheap to law enforcement at all.
Well, jail is one thing, courtrooms are another, so.
Except it's jail personnel and sheriff's office personnel that's having to try and deal with it. And if we can get it into, and the whole thing we're hoping, and I've got to get back with our medical today, if we can use the courtroom out at the jail, since we're still under one roof, and we do sanitize and have the mask of all the participants, including attorneys and judges and everybody else in there, and we bring them out directly out of their cell into that courtroom, one at a time, and put them directly back in the cell so that they're not commingled with other cells. That's been our other issue. Then maybe we can do it under that guideline where I don't have to put them all in separate. Because if we have to put them all in isolation or separation for 14 days, we're going to have an issue. This lawsuit out of Colorado, one thing they were having to do, and they were checking temperature, they're doing everything, but they were having to cohort those inmates because they didn't have enough separation cells.
What does it take to follow the procedure you just said, from using that courtroom out at the jail facility itself?
Is making sure that the courtroom's available on the days that they need it, which I think is pretty well can be worked out with the JP out there. I don't think the judges have a problem doing that. But then just making sure the social distancing's kept same as here, and all the guidelines are kept, and that our medical provider would also say, yeah, I think we can do that.
So that sounds like an ideal procedure.
For the out of county or for the in custody ones, I think that is. Now the out of custody ones, the thing you have to realize, it's not unusual on a court day, even those that are not in custody, to end up having to make several arrests. Now, if we start going to, monitoring, ankle monitoring or whatever, maybe that'll help some things, but there's going to be some changes that have to be done that are not going to be cheap. And, y'all are looking at doing away with the emergency declaration by the county judge, and I agree with lets in them. Once the governor did it, that's fine, but we're fixing to hit the threshold where it's gonna start costing this county a whole lot of real dollars out of our pocket. And if we do away with that order, does that weaken our ability to recoup that in these grants? That's my only concern.
You had you mentioned earlier that the city's arrested with 168 or something, and you, or 100, whatever the number was like
Yeah.
3 times what the number that the sheriff's department was arrested.
It's about double.
About double?
Double.
Hopefully you're working with the police chief on trying to limit arrest where it's appropriate.
Would that we could.
We're doing what we
As
can.
opposed to turn them loose, right. Like-
Well, I mean, there's certain things that you can.
Why we had to jail a shoplifter, I don't know.
Right.
That's one of the ones we just recently got.
So anyway,
The only thing I hope is nobody starts getting arrested for violating an order. 'Cause I have no place for it.
but anyway, hopefully during the Thursday meetings that can be stressed.
Well, I've talked to the sheriff about possibly attending the stakeholder briefings that we do. I don't know so much about the public announcement part of it, but I think that the other stakeholders in the county need to be aware of the delicate, precarious position we are with the jail right now. And Sheriff, before you leave, for the benefit of the public, explain a little bit more about what cohorting is, because they need to understand what we're talking about, because that's where the danger lies right now.
Cohorting is, I have a 10-person cell block, okay, that's empty. And I have several of those right now. Right? So what cohorting is you get a new inmate coming in, all your separation cells are done, so that new inmate gets screened the best you can, of course, and they go into that cell. Okay? Tonight we get 3 more brought in, 3 more arrests. So those 3, same thing, they go into that cell. During the rest of this week, we get, 4, 6 more, whatever, and that fills up that cell. So on Friday, it's full. So that's when your 14-day quarantine starts, is Friday. Now the problem you have is if you have any of those vulnerable ones that are classified that by the definition and what CDC and everybody's come up with, and you put a vulnerable one in that same cell, and now you brought in one on Thursday that ended up having it but didn't test right away, now you expose that vulnerable one to it.
And there
Well,
are
40% of the people are vulnerable.
Well, there's a certain definition, and I'm not going to go into it.
I'm looking at this right here.
I'm looking at the lawsuit out of Colorado.
I'm looking at what the definition of vulnerable is.
Yeah.
Listen to the doctors in the nation, they say 40% of the people in the nation are vulnerable.
Unfortunately.
Based on overweight.
Unfortunately, when you
diabetes,
get into
etc.
jail clientele, the 40% is not accurate because of jail
Right.
inmates are not the healthiest in the world a lot of times anyhow
Probably more
because of
than
their
40%.
lifestyle. Okay? But some of the conditions are over 65, high blood pressure, chronic lung disease, diabetes, obesity, asthma, immune system deficiencies, whatever. Okay? Some of that in Colorado even tried to define them as substance abusers and smokers.
Mhm.
Now, can you imagine if that definition goes through what that
I
would do
said
to a county jail?
40% from your customers,
It's
quote
different.
unquote, is higher than 40%.
That's where we're at.
I appreciate it, Sheriff. Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Anything else on the operation plan for the courthouse?
Now, Michelle has some questions for him.
Just so that everybody knows, I think we have a meeting tomorrow morning at 10 with all the judges. As he rolls this plan out, it'll be implemented. We'll get our specific marching orders. We can report back on how it rolls out.
And if I didn't mention it earlier, I did meet with all the JPs and they've all been incorporated in this plan.
This will take place June 1st?
Yes.
Effective June 1st?
Yes.
Correct.
Are the JPs going to still do court at their courtrooms, or are those going to be upstairs here too?
No, they're gonna be in their courtrooms, but they have occupancy limits.
And the same guy wearing the mask.
Correct. Yeah, plexiglass. the whole
For example, I think the occupancy limit for the little courtroom downstairs at the lower level is 5, I think.
I believe that's correct. District courtroom number 1, I think, is 20, and district courtroom number 2 is 21.
So you get a jury in there, you're not gonna have many spectators.
Can't do it. That's why we're having to go out to the ag barn to impanel the jury and flip the trial back to the courthouse. And then we can accommodate by staggering our jury into 3 rows instead of 2, rearranging the tables.
But you are limiting it to the attendance, even if they're out in their
Talking about it in the out of custody?
Right.
Correct.
Family members and all friends are not.
Correct.
part.
Yeah, and for those that haven't had a chance to look at the plan, the jury selection would be done out at the Youth Event Center.
Correct.
That's what he was referring to. And everybody be socially distanced, spaced apart. And then once the jury's impaneled, they bring the jury back here to try the lawsuit.
And I presume that there's no conflicts with any other events at the event center?
We're coordinating on that.
I mean,
We just have to
pretty
coordinate.
much
Jake.
everything's.
I know the 198 days are clear. I'm still waiting on clarification on the 216. And then as soon as we receive those, we'll confirm.
We're in the process of working on that as we speak.
And real quick, the only other thing that you do need to know is that, like grand jury was today, and I believe they are holding it up there, social distancing and doing all that. And we all know what happens after grand jury. A lot of times, you'll get 20 or 30 new indictments, and those people need to be arrested and go to jail. Okay? And a lot of those are dealing with the felony cases where you would normally be, after court processes, getting to send them to the penitentiary. The issue we have right now is...
Share these numbers.
This is last week for TDC. TDC, as of last week, had 1,427 inmates test positive. They got 582 staff members tested positive. We got 27 confirmed deaths and 43,185 inmates on lockdown. TDC's closed. Okay? The problem we have is, as of Friday, and where I have all my paperwork stuck here. As of Friday, I have 12 inmates waiting to go to TDC. I have 3 inmates waiting to go to state jail, which is part of TDC. I have 1 waiting to go to SafeP, which is another punishment facility. They're all closed. Okay, and I have another one on a bench warrant that we're waiting to return to TDC. So that's 17 just in that part alone. All right? I've got 2 other ones waiting to go to a community corrections facility, which you can't get them in. I've got 5 waiting to go to customs and ICE. I have 3 parole violators that are just straight parole, no new charges, no anything else. And one of those been revoked. 2 were waiting on hearings, but they're not doing hearings either. Okay? And so they're stuck. And you have to understand, the law says if they're on parole, I can't turn them loose. Period. No bonds, no nothing. They sit unless the state decides something different on that parole. I have 18 parole violators with new charge. So it doesn't matter if we give bonds on those new charges, they're still there on no bonds because of the parole. And parole's not doing anything. So we're stuck with those for the foreseeable future. Okay? Give you an idea of one thing that happened. We had an inmate a few weeks ago that had some serious health issues. And that inmate ended up a week in ICU here at a parole hold. So that's a week of ICU that we're going to pay. That inmate got transferred to Bexar County Hospital in Bexar County, not the jail. So that's jailers that have to go to, actually it's deputies because they're going out of county, that had to go down there and pull guard duty in a San Antonio hospital 24 hours a day while he was there. Parole finally released the hold. One night in Bear County in that hospital cost us over $7,000. I don't know what it's gonna cost us in ZP for a week in ICU. Okay?
Indigent health, it maxed out at 30,000 for chapter 51, and they bill at Medicaid rates. So after 30,000, it just gets written off.
So why has parole taken the act? Why have they gone to sleep?
Because what are they gonna do with it?
The state system shut down.
It's the state.
I'm
See,
saying, but
Why don't they release it if they're nonviolent or something like that?
yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, you know, the other thing is these inmates that are TDC paper ready, okay? Normally, after 45 days of being paper ready in our facility, we get reimbursed. The state waived that too, they're not reimbursing.
So it's just all being held down at the lowest level, not letting in. Yeah, a mess. You're right, Judge.
Well, and so the public understands, this is all mandated.
Right.
We are mandated to do this. We have no choice. And we are not being funded. And that's why we're having such a budget crisis with what's mandated and what's not mandated, is because we're having to pick up the check on all these expenses.
You know, it's probably unnecessary, but one thing I'll say to my notice of all this stuff is you notice the ones that are shut down and can't move are all the things that the state controls their licenses. Whether it's bars, whether it's hair salons, whether it's gonna be, you know, nursing homes getting tested. And what I was told is the next step is all jails will end up having to be tested, every inmate. And we'll see.
Yeah, don't get me off on that, because just think about it. When we test them, everybody in the jail, and we start moving them around back and forth for these hearings and these trials, and they get re-exposed, how good is the test results that we got a week ago?
Exactly.
And they control your licenses.
Rusty, hold on.
I think I've said enough.
You gave us a number, I believe it was 27 TDC deaths.
Yes.
Is there any kind of numbers that you could find or telling what the regular seasonal flu, what kind of?
I could ask, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Thing is, you know, what bothers me is a number of those deaths are staff.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I suppose. Okay.
Okay, any other business before the court today? If not, we're adjourned.
Hey, Don.